show is brought to you by Johnston Group, Vittorio Rossi, Trans-Canada Brewing, Lou Furlan, Cambrian Credit Union, and Homefield.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weave from Sportsnet. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after game. I think that's 65. And I have to say, I'm a big believer. I've always been a big believer. I hope you see it on this show that when I'm wrong, I like to come out and I want to point out I'm wrong. Not saying I'm there yet, but I do have to say the absolute certainty by which I've been saying time and time again on this very program that the Winnipeg Jets are going to make the playoffs. I have to say that at this stage, my faith in that declaration is shaken in a way that it hasn't been shaken before. And I'll tell you what it is. It has to do with the fact that the Calgary Flames finally seem to have woken up a little bit. 2 straight wins. I don't want to get too crazy there. I still don't have a ton of faith in that team, but all of a sudden when they stack together 4 points and the Jets leave 3 points on the table, you go from it being, that's the difference between 7 points, right? That's 7 points up in the standings that the Jets would be had they closed these games or had Calgary not earned those points. And here's the deal. I still say this. I mean, when you went into yesterday's game, before the Calgary Flames played the Minnesota Wild, they were 6 points back at the Winnipeg Jets statistically. And we went on this last year. And people who watched this last year, when there was all this talk about the Winnipeg Jets going down the stretch and making the playoffs, we said at the trade deadline, look, the Winnipeg Jets are not making the playoffs. Statistically, it's almost impossible for this to happen, right? Well, turning things around by 6 points, that's hard to do. It's hard to do, but as my cameraman pointed it out, if you just stop winning games, it's not necessarily that hard to do. And I have to say that did I talk earlier on in early January about seeing something like this coming, saying that the Winnipeg Jets, the way that they were playing, it was an unsustainable style at that time, that they were going to need to change things, or it was going to catch up with them? Yes, I said that. But at the same time, I didn't think that it was going to catch up to them to the degree that they would fall down and not be able to get up. What we're witnessing here is astounding. I said it in my show open, February 10th, 26 days ago. The Winnipeg Jets were 7 points up on the Minnesota Wild in the standings. Today, after this game, 26 days later, they are 6 points behind them in the standings. That is a turnaround of 13 points. That is near impossible for that to happen. We talked about this in the past about how in 2019 the St. Louis Blues were something audacious, like 19 points behind the Winnipeg Jets, and that lead shrank to, I believe it was 1 point by the end of the season. So that 18-point makeup from December 1st until the end of the season, that's crazy. That's almost impossible for something like that to happen. One team needs to play out of their minds. The other team needs to play absolutely terrible. But a 13-point swing between the Winnipeg Jets and the Minnesota Wild. Now, part of that has to do with the fact that at that time, the Minnesota Wild had 4 games in hand. They've played those 4 games in hand, so that helps a lot. I mean, you win all 4 of those, which they didn't. That's 8 points right there. But even the 5 points that you have to push out after that, it makes no sense. What's happening right now makes absolutely no sense. And because it makes no sense, for the first time, I have to look at this from a completely irrational place and say, here we go. The Winnipeg Jets, it is irrational to think that they won't make the playoffs. Even at this stage, even with those 4 points, it's irrational to think. But we have to think in irrational terms here, because what's happening right now with the Winnipeg Jets is irrational. Hallmarked by the last 2 games, which are games which the Winnipeg Jets broke the needle off on the deserve to win a meter in their own direction and somehow didn't come out to win both of these 2 games. But the other part of this that you have to think is, at this stage, the Calgary Flames, 4 points back of the Winnipeg Jets. Even that is hard to overcome over a stretch. Yeah, like I think if you took a look at the playoff odds for both teams, my guess is that the Winnipeg Jets odds would still be in the 60% area. I think that would be it. I haven't taken a look at it as of the last little while, but it should turn out that way. But here's the idea. The Winnipeg Jets now have 17 games left. Over 17 games, is it conceivable that the Calgary Flames can close the gap by 2 points? Most definitely it is. And here's the fly in the ointment. The Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets meet one last time. So if you're the Calgary Flames, all you are saying to yourself is you just need to close the gap by 2 points before that game against the Winnipeg Jets. And then you get them head to head. And then you steal those 2 points off them. And that's your path. You've got a path. It's not necessarily in their hands right now. Their fate isn't in their own hands, but they're reaching for it, and maybe their fingertips are brushing against it. That's the stage that we're at right now. It's a tricky one. Enough talking about that. Let's get to the game itself. Rick Bowness, if you heard him after the game, had said that he thought this was maybe the Winnipeg Jets' performance of the entire year. I don't necessarily think I agree with it in the terms of, like, okay, if we're talking about the volume of what they threw on net, what they generated, okay, I'm on board with that. I can get behind that. I still saw a Winnipeg Jets team that passes were in each other's skates. Someone made a comment out there that this Winnipeg Jets team looks like there's just no chemistry between anyone at this stage. I saw that. Like, other than that Adam Lowry pass where he kind of did the spinorama and threw it on the stick instead of player in alone, it just seemed like every pass was just a little bit off all night. And I do think that those are the little plays, especially at the NHL, at NHL speed. Those are the plays that get kind of quashed when you take away the rhythm of a team. The Jets, to me, looked like a team that they could to throw what they could at the net tonight to generate themselves some opportunities, did so honestly, did so with hard work, did so by outworking the opposition. But I do think that, the failure to connect on some of those goals has to do with them just being a little bit off. I don't know if you call that squeezing the stick. I don't think it's squeezing the stick. I just think right now the Jets just aren't clicking. They're not clicking right now. And if you want to know why the last two games the Winnipeg Jets are generating, but they're not finishing, I think that's it. I think you have to talk about this for a second and say this. I know I've said this before, but the interesting part about the last game and the interesting part about this game is what we're seeing from the Winnipeg Jets. They are losing games in the manner that they were winning games earlier in the season. I mean, does this not ring a bell for people? The Winnipeg Jets are in a game where 45 shots are put up in one direction, and the team with 22 shots or however many shots there were ends up winning the game. It should remind you of something, because it was basically the Winnipeg Jets playbook for a good chunk of the beginning of the season. It's not sustainable. I'll tell you this right now. If the Winnipeg Jets get into the playoffs and they play at some point the Minnesota Wild and the games look like that, the Winnipeg Jets will win that series. It's done. Why? Because playing like that is not sustainable. Asking your goalie to stand on his head is not sustainable. Allowing yourself to be outshot to that degree and not generating enough shots on your own, that is not sustainable. It's why I was always on the Jets' victories at the beginning of the year and saying that they were not sustainable. But what was the line? A lot of people in this chat room used it. Rick Bowness used it. The players used it. What's the line that people loved using time and time again when the Winnipeg Jets got outshot 45 shots to 22 and found a way to win that game? What was the line people loved to say? Anyone? The line was time and time again, good teams find ways to win games. That's what we heard over and over and over again. Well, if that's the truth, if what you were saying was true, if what Rick Bowness was saying at the beginning of the year was true, if the Jets were getting outplayed in games, outchanced in games, outshot in games, having their goaltender steal games, if that was happening and we called that the Winnipeg Jets being a good team and good teams find ways to win games, then you have to turn the paradigm on the entire thing and say the Winnipeg Jets right now are a bad team finding ways to lose games. How did they lose tonight's game? They didn't finish, but they probably put enough at the net that they maybe could have pulled this off. The issue here tonight, Marc-Andre Fleury, yes, goalied them just like James Reimer did the last game. In the last game, I'd said about David Riddick, I wouldn't hang the loss on goaltending of why they lost that game, but no doubt it didn't help. That first goal by David Riddick did not help. I don't blame him for the second one. But on this night, to me, when Marc-Andre Fleury is playing like he is, it becomes a goaltender's duel, and there is no doubt about it. Connor Hellebuck lost the goaltender's duel on this night. That's a good explanation. If you're saying the Jets at this stage are a bad team finding ways to lose games, they found it in maybe the most unthinkable way for the Winnipeg Jets, and that they lost this game tonight because of their goaltending. Their goaltender most definitely got outdueled on this night. The goals that were scored against Connor Hellebuck were not the strongest goals. This is one of those nights where the Winnipeg Jets had what they needed to win this game and walk away without 2 points at the worst conceivable time of the season. That's my take on it. Time to bring in Ken to get his take on it. Here's the man with the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Ken, two things before you get going. T-Will brought this up, and he says, well, Renny, the Jets are playing the right way. This is what you wanted them to do, isn't it? Are you still sure playing the right way is more important than winning? Unequivocally, the answer to this question is yes. Why? Because we know what it looks like the other way. We know that the Jets' last win before the Edmonton Oilers win was a win against the New York Rangers, in which they absolutely did to the New York Rangers what happened to them here tonight, and we saw what the Jets followed that up with. We saw what it looks like after that if you're not playing the right game the right way. I like where the Jets are more today, more after this game, than where they were after that game against the New York Rangers. Does it suck they didn't get the points? Most definitely. Do I still believe there's a little bit of an idea here of a team that is just not finding ways to win games that it should win? Most definitely. But I'll tell you this right now, I have a lot more hope in a Winnipeg Jets team that put up the past two performances that they did than they did right now, than what I was seeing from them and what I followed up and seeing from them in the middle of that New York trip. The other thing I want to say, Ken, you look like $1 million. I have to say, I'm wearing one of my absolute favorite Frankie collections here. This is an understated, I'll tell you this right now. My thought process going in would have been to get this jacket, this tie, and put a white shirt on. Frankie's like, no. You got to get the subtlety of the pattern, the depth of the shirt, and this blue shirt. And he is absolutely right. I love this ensemble by Frankie and the boys. I love yours as well. It's a little bit similar to mine. I like the window pane pattern. Frankie knows what he's doing, and that's why you should head down and see Frankie at the boys on Corydon Avenue. Go see them at Vittorio Rossi. We are told that people have been going down. They've been asking for Frank. I love it. I love that people are rolling in off of the podcast and asking for Frank by name. That's the stuff. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate that. We appreciate that you're shouting Kenny and Renny loud from the rooftops when you go there. You should get down there. Because I'll tell you what, those guys work magic, Frankie and the boys, and I think tonight is a good example of that. Speaking of working magic, Ken, is this a Marc-Andre Fleury game as simple as that? Did he work his magic, and that is the only reason we're talking about a Winnipeg Jets loss?
Well, it's not the only reason, but it certainly is one of the biggest reasons. Flower power was in full effect here. I'm sure Alan Walsh was thrilled. He played awesome. I mean, there's no other way. Marc-Andre Fleury, this is a vintage, even though Fleury didn't want to call it a vintage effort, it was. I mean, he's won 4 games in a row. It had been a bit of an uneven season for him, but, with the exception of Game 1 of the Western Conference Final, Marc-Andre Fleury has had a lot of good nights in this building. he channeled the one of those nights today by making a ton of saves. Fleury definitely won the game for the Minnesota Wild, but there are issues that the Jets cannot get through right now, and some of those are related to great goaltending. But they need to find a way. Their opponent found a way to win. The Jets had a clear schedule advantage. The Wild played a incredibly physical game that went into overtime. And yes, I understand it's only a 48-minute flight from Minnesota, but that was a bruising game by two teams. The Wild thought they had won the game. It got overturned, and the Flames came through and picked up the extra point. So, I mean, these are games where schedule advantage doesn't matter if it's a good team or a team that's below them in the standings. Those are games that teams like the Jets have to win. I mean, that especially in this scenario. We saw what happened to the San Jose Sharks when they played the back end of a back-to-back after playing Winnipeg. They got smoked in the back end of the back-to-back. So right now, it's interesting. I mean, what Rick Bowness and Kyle Connors said is accurate. I mean, it was one of the Jets' best performances in terms of quality shots generated, in terms of slot shots, in terms of high danger chances, all of those things. Those are accurate. However, it didn't result in a victory for a team that has now lost 7 of 8 games. So that's a problem. But like you said, Sean, that was not a snake charmer game by the Jets.
No.
Their structure, which had been struggling, was excellent. So people that want to say that's rose-colored glasses, you need to wake up. The Jets gave up fewer than 10 scoring chances against a team that has been absolutely on fire coming out of the break. That didn't get them anything, but rather than reverting and cheating and doing things that hurt a team's chances to win over the long term, the Jets stuck with it, so they didn't get rewarded. And Marc-Andre Fleury was the best goalie on the ice. There's no question about that. Connor Hellebuyck was the second best goalie on the ice. I would say the third goal by Ryan Hartman is one that Connor Hellebuyck has to have. I was sitting with Trevor Kidd during the second period, Sean, and I looked over at Kidder, and he couldn't believe it. It was one of those where it's hard to imagine the last time that he let in a goal like that. That's a bad goal. That's a goal that he has to have. I thought in real time that maybe Hellebuyck cheated, thinking on the 2-on-1 that Hartman would pass, but he didn't really open up any further. I think that shot was already open for him, and Hellebuyck just whiffed on it. And that's something that right now, it's funny. Hellebuyck has bailed the Jets out countless times, but we've been debating this a lot in the stands when we've been watching practice. When's the last time the Jets took their goalie off the hook on a night where they maybe didn't have their best?
Yeah.
It was not tonight, even though they had a good effort. So when a team is going through a tough time, Maul, hey, it's a long season. In the last 5 starts, Connor Hellebuyck has not been the Jets' MVP. No, he has not. There is no question about that. He's given up 5, 4, and 3. So his goals against and save percentage in this stretch have been poor. I wrote about that in my column just now that will be soon posted at www.sportsnet.ca. But Connor Hellebuyck gets a little bit of leeway, and now we're going to find out what Connor Hellebuyck will do down the stretch. I expect him to play well. He's had 49 starts. I would say if you went back over the majority of those starts prior to the last 5 games, the majority of those starts was pretty darn good. But right now, Josh Morrissey has the edge in the recent play, and in the last 17 games, if this continues and Josh Morrissey continues to play that he has been, he could pass Connor Hellebuyck for the MVP voting. That happens.
Pass? Hold
Sean,
on a second.
Okay, well you're
pass? No. I'm going to tell you something right now. You just gave the biggest, fattest receipt you could have possibly given in this argument. This is something that people right now need to take note of at home. You talked about this the last 5 games, and he hasn't been where he should be. For the most part, who has been where they should be the last 5 games?
That is what I'm arguing. In sample size, in the last 5 games, if you want to talk about 66 or whatever.
Don't sample size this. Josh Morrissey has been on.
Let's not get on this today. We've got lots to talk about.
I want to talk about the receipt that you just dropped. Okay. Josh Morrissey has been on this the entire game. They showed in the broadcast tonight what he's been doing
great
the last little while. Jamal Mayer said it is unconscious what he's been doing right now. This is a guy who played for how many years in the league? He says he doesn't know that he's seen a player do what Josh Morrissey has been doing over the last stretch. You just gave me the biggest receipt you possibly could, because at a time where the Winnipeg Jets are falling apart, Connor Hellebuck has not been at his best, and Josh Morrissey has. If that doesn't scream MVP, I don't know what does. When one guy is needed at his biggest time of the year and is not there, and the other guy has been there consistently all year and is stepping it up at a time where the rest of the team is falling apart, this to me is an obvious suggestion that Josh Morrissey is the MVP of this team. Never mind this talk about he could potentially pass him. The passing is done, Ken. At this stage in this debate, Connor Hellebuck had better show up and absolutely put the team on his back and close the door for the rest of the season if he wants to get back into this debate. This is not your horse ahead of mine. This is my horse running roughshod down the backstretch. Yours needs a lot to do to catch up here.
Well, I mean, it's not as simple as horses. I think Josh has had a great season, and if we're checking the receipts, that my feelings towards the season are quite evident. Right now, Connor Hellebuck is struggling. That's obvious. But at the same time, I don't think you can ignore the 60-game sample size that Connor Hellebuck put together. But he's definitely
No one's
dipped.
ignoring it. No one's ignoring it.
You're ignoring it, yes.
How am I ignoring it?
Never mind. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about this. It's okay.
I'm sure
we have 17 games and we'll decide at the end. And I mean, Josh is playing great. He needs some help, and not just from Hellebuck. He needs help from his teammates up front, and they're not getting enough help.
No doubt. Hey, I wanted to switch gears before we do that. I want your Lamplighter. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go, lots of people weighing in so far. For me, the Lamplighter is the Frederick Goodrow goal, which was absolutely absurd in terms of his hands in tight and what he was able to do to basically turn Hellebuck into a pretzel. But this is another classic example. Jets try to get the puck out along the boards. They can't get it out. Foligno finds Goodrow. Jets kind of trying to maybe fly the zone, and Goodrow makes a nice wide move on the deke and basically ran Hellebuck out of real estate. Hellebuck actually played it pretty well, Sean, but he played himself right into the net, right? I mean, it was just an unbelievable play. Again, lots of people saying, Niederreiter, nice play to glove it out of the air. It's a tap-in. On terms of the Logan Stanley goal, I mean, he activated. Nice job by him to come in the lineup and make an impact. But that play is also a lot of his all in the Mesnikov, Sean. It wasn't even a dangerous chance. It was a backhand that he didn't even really see, and one of the few times that Fleury kicked out a rebound. Nice job by Logan to follow the puck and go to the net. He started the play by getting it to Nemesnikov. But to me, I thought that the Goodrow goal was really timely for them. And another one of the goals, it would be the anti-Lamplighter, the way that the Jets played the Foligno goal, which was a brilliant backhand saucer pass by Oscar Lundqvist. But Sundqvist, either Neil Pionk has to step up on Sundqvist there, Sean, right? He's on his backhand. He's not anywhere dangerous. The spacing with Pionk and Morrissey was not good at all. And the backhand pass gets into the high slot. Foligno goes barred down. Some people complaining about that shot. Are you kidding me? Foligno goes barred down from the slot where he was not checked. I mean, anyways, that was a poorly played defensive effort by the Jets. They had a pretty good back check by Menelainen, but the spacing was terrible. And in a game where the Jets were dominating, the Wild score first, and then they're able to play the 1-3-1, and the Jets get frustrated even though they get a bunch of chances. They kind of got themselves into trouble. So anyways, that's a long-winded way of saying I thought the Goodrow goal by the Wild was my Lamplighter, brought to you by the good folks at TransCanada Brewing Company.
I like it. I'll take it. And hey, if you're interested in sharing with us your Lamplighter, I would suggest that you do, because if you do, you are automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale from our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to hand out your 8-packs to you, head on down to TransCanada Brewing Company. Join them at their tap room at 11290 Kenniston, where we will be having our next Kenny and Renny live event on the 18th, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after that. Head on down there, check it out. They got great pizza, great beers. You could come on down on the 18th and check us out if you wanted to. I do have to say we tried a different ticket selling method. Seems to have caused some confusion, and because of that, we've got some space in the room. We would love to fill that space. We'd love you to come on down. This is the Kenny and Renny call out for people to reach us. I know that this may have been difficult for some people to change over. It can be a fairly easy process, but I get that we changed the process, and that has caused some issues. So if anyone wants to just direct message me
or me
at SN or Ken, we will make sure that we put you in touch with the proper channels by which to get your tickets, because we love spending time with all of you, and we want to absolutely pack that room. So either copy and paste this, head on down, buy your tickets there, or get a hold of me at SN Sean Reynolds, or get a hold of Ken, and we will put you in touch with those tickets, because we want to see you down there. Keep in mind, the 18th is the last live event where both Kenny and Renny will be there, and you'll want to be there to see me further pick on Ken in the debate for MVP, which I am clearly running away with. I find it Scotty. I find it funny that Scotty's in here trying to say who cares about the debate, that he's losing now, and I find it funny that he's saying what's Josh Morrissey done to earn the MVP. Just a couple games shy of him scoring the game winner in a 2-goal, 1-assist performance in their last win here. I don't know. Did Scotty bang his head? Is he forgetting this stuff? It's crazy, absolutely crazy here. Anyway, I want to announce our winner of the Lamplighter, and I'm going to pop this off here as we do so. Rain, I know you're here, Rain, because you were in here talking before. I'll bring up your comment. Scott has got to be laughing in the press box when you guys argue. It's like a normal Wednesday for him. That's what it is. But actually, I'll be honest with you. As much as you think Kenny and Renny like to argue, it's usually Scotty and Ken who do the vast majority of the arguing. The divorce lawyer already got to those guys and made their money off them, and he looked darn good in a Vittorio Rossi suit when he was doing it. But Rain, you are the winner of last podcast's 8-pack, frosty delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Give me your full name and give me an email which I can get a hold of you. I am a gloater. That is. Hey, I need to. The chat room
only partial receipts.
The chat room clearly beats Renny when he's down, so Renny's got to lift himself up when he needs to, and he's feeling high right now.
Lift away,
Finish
baby,
it
lift
off.
away.
Rain, full name. I need your email. Send it to SN Sean Reynolds, and I will send you your voucher for your frosty delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our great friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. Ken, time for your Johnston Group. Got you covered. Play of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, Nino Niederreiter's 400th NHL point, I think. That was a nice play. Nate Schmidt sort of just flicked it towards the net, and Nino Niederreiter grabbed it and put it down and put it in the net to make it an interesting game at a night where the Jets had fallen behind 3-1 late in the second period with 2:45 to go. That was a Nino Niederreiter having Schmidt covered as Schmidt returned to the lineup and got himself another point, and actually was quite active again and got himself a promotion, squaring up some shifts with Josh Morrissey throughout parts of the game, including the second period. So nice job by Schmidt overall, but Nino Niederreiter continues to fit in extremely well. Sean, I mean, also a stick tap and secondary award to Vladislav Nemesnikov, who slid into the center position pretty seamlessly on that line with Nikolai Ehlers and Blake Wheeler, with Pierre-Luc Dubois out. And for those of you who missed it, Dubois will miss the start at least of this 3-game road trip. It's hard to imagine him being back for the Sunday game against Tampa. Sean, I mean, I would say best case scenario right now would be Dubois returning against Carolina, and even then Are you flying a guy out? I mean, guess based on the situation the Jets are in, if he can play, they would fly him out for the one game. But I mean, this is the other thing. I mean, we understand it's that time of year, Sean, where coaches probably aren't going to be as forthcoming about injuries. But we were all under the impression that Pierre-Luc Dubois was dealing with some nagging lower body injury that had kept him out of a couple of skates. And when pressed on it tonight, Rick Bowness said, "Oh no, it's not a setback." When I asked him about it, he's got an upper body injury.
Well, new injury.
Okay, so that's bad news for the Jets. I mean, people can say whatever they want, and yes, Dubois' offensive production has dipped when he hasn't looked as healthy, but they miss him incredibly much, and that's a huge loss for them going into, especially in that Tampa game, Sean, right? I mean, this is a guy who's been a thorn in the side of Tampa dating back to his Columbus days. That's a massive loss for them going into that series against Paul Maurice's Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, who just got through their own rut by absolutely rebounding against the Philadelphia Flyers. So, I mean, that's a massive loss for them.
No doubt. I just want to close out our Got You Covered play of the game. I agreed with it and want to give a shout out to our friends, the Kenny and Renny OGs at the Johnston Group. You won't find two businesses with the same challenges, but you will find 30,000 businesses with Chambers Plan employee benefits proudly administered by our friends at Johnston Group. Chambers Plan is Canada's #1 plan for employee benefits because it evolves with the way you work and live. The plan is run as a not-for-profit designed specifically to support small businesses, and its unique pooling strategy keeps rates stable so you won't have any surprises at your next renewal. Chambers Plan now comes with professional consulting on key financial, legal, and HR issues, and teledoc telemedicine services are included with every health option. See how Chambers Plan can benefit your business by visiting chamberplan.ca. And Ken, I was thinking about the comment earlier about me gloating, and I thought, you know what makes gloating more fun? A headband. So let's make this Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Here on Kenny and Renny, when we can, we like to make sure that we hit up the issues you want to talk about. This is a good one. Waiters 27 brings up boys. Thoughts on the Stanley hit on Kaprizov. I think we're both on a little bit different sides of this one.
Correct.
If you can handle that mic and get it back in
Why don't you start?
Order. Okay. No, I'd like you to start on this one because you were asking the questions afterwards. What was your take on the Logan Stanley hit on Kaprizov?
Yeah, I mean, this is very simple to me, Sean, and it wasn't very simple to Wild fans who got into my timeline, because our friends from Minnesota, the writers, didn't travel because of the back-to-back scenario and the cost of getting to Winnipeg. I was trying to, provide a little bit of context. I mean, they were watching at home on TV, of course, but for me, this is what happened. Logan Stanley was on the ice against a player that often the coaching staff does not want him on the ice against. And that's not a knock on Logan Stanley, but Kaprizov is one of the elite players in the National Hockey League. So when he starts spinning, generally speaking, third-pairing defensemen who haven't played very much in the last while are going to have trouble kind of staying with him. So to me, this is nothing more than an awkward play. Does his full body land on him? Yes. It was an incredibly awkward play. I don't think that Logan Stanley had the intention of putting his entire body weight on him and having his left leg crumple underneath. Can I understand why some people thought, well, maybe he could have made an effort to get out of the way? Fine. But this isn't a guy that went out and say, you know what, I'm out against Kirill Kaprizov. I'm going to do my best to hurt him. I think he got spun around and lost his balance and fell on him. But I know you think that it's a little bit more, again, not maybe you think there was some intent. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, I just think this is an awkward play by someone who wasn't really expecting Kaprizov to spin. He was trying to get a body on him, and then he lost his footing and then fell on him, which was totally unfortunate for Kaprizov. I don't want Kaprizov hurt. He's one of the best players in the NHL. I want to watch him play. Yet Wild fans were making it sound like it was me who delivered the hit. So it was a bit of an interesting few minutes on this scenario. I mean, I asked Logan about it afterward, obviously, and he didn't seem to understand. I mean, I wasn't making it out to a big deal. I wanted to know what he saw. And he basically saw he was, let's go to the exact quote here, Sean. I mean, what Logan Stanley said was, well, he stopped and I tried to finish my check on him. Then I just fell on top of him. I wasn't expecting him to go down. It's just an unfortunate play. I mean, Dean Evison, if he had a problem with it, and he might have, he didn't say anything in his post-game address. He said they would look at it and kind of go from there. If this was a situation that we thought like with Mark Scheifele and Matthew Tkachuk, his direct quote was, no, I don't have any thoughts on it. We'll evaluate, obviously, and have a look at it. So, I mean, to me, when a person's star player gets hurt and a coach has an issue with it, generally he's making a big deal out of it like we've seen before. So, you know, maybe Dean Evison goes home after the game tonight and 2 days from now makes a bigger deal out of it. But to me, I didn't see it. To me, it was more of a nothing play with an unfortunate result. Do I understand why people think it's like a quarterback sack where the guy knows he's going to fall on him and is like, well, better to fall on him than to fall to the side and maybe he gets up and scores. I'm okay with that, but I don't think there was any intent or malice on the play itself. That's what I saw.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up the quarterback thing. This play reminds me of
you said Tony Sirigusa. Which one?
Yeah, so it's the first year that the Baltimore Ravens win the Super Bowl. They go up, and I think they're in the conference final. I believe it's against Rich Gannon and the Raiders. I can't remember what year it was, but that game starts out. It's fairly early. Rich Gannon gets sacked by Tony Sirigusa, and what happens is Sirigusa goes and lands on, and you can kind of see it's almost like one of those guys running and jumping and diving into the pool and just going
belly flop
and letting their body weight just kind of all get stuck into one. This was a play where a lot of people who analyzed the game said about Sirigusa, in these situations, defensive linemen, they know what they're doing. They know that when you weigh 360 pounds and you throw 360 pounds on top of someone in a dynamic fashion, that's a lot of weight to carry, right? It wasn't a situation where Sirigusa starfished and put his hands down and put his feet down to kind of take some of the weight off of it. Tony Sirigusa went in there and thought, here's an opportunity for me to throw a lot at Rich Gannon, maybe take him out of the game. And it worked. I think it separated his shoulder, if I remember correctly. But this reminded me of that situation. Logan Stanley, I was kind of blown away that it wasn't called a penalty, because when a guy gets on a guy's back and falls down on him, I was very surprised it wasn't a penalty. For those of you who are always keeping score and thinking that the Winnipeg Jets are getting jobbed by the refs, the Minnesota Wild very much felt that the penalties were tilted in the Jets' favor here tonight, and that was one of the times that it happened. I don't know I necessarily believe that. I don't think that this was a penalty. What I do think was Logan Stanley got up on top of his back, and it's in the way, Ken, that he lifts his feet up in the air. Like
I think he fell. I don't think he was lifting them. I think he lost his balance.
I think he's up in the air, and then once he feels his weight on the player, he's trying to finish the hit with the player by doing exactly the same thing as Tony Sirigusa did. He's trying to line all his weight up on top of a vulnerable player to drop him down. Do I think he was trying to eliminate him from the game? No, but I think that this is a situation where at a point, Logan Stanley could have dropped his weight off of the player and moved on from the play. This is an attempt, I think. Hey, it's called spatial awareness. It's called understanding your body. Athletes, I think, know what they're doing in situations like this. Do I think in that very moment he was like, I am going to pile all my weight on Kaprizov's back and absolutely split his legs in two different ways? No, but I think it is one of these things where you want to lean on a guy. When you get an opportunity to put some weight on a good player, you want to lean on him. You want to throw your weight on him. This is a situation where I don't think it was intentional, but I think the ability to finish him and pile his weight on was intentional. I can understand. This is another one of those gray areas. And Ken, you know me. I love gray areas in the game of hockey. I think this is the right play. I think you go out in a situation like this to finish your check on your opposition, and you have if you have a chance to do so, you do so. That's the way I see. So I like this. I know that a lot of people don't like this game. I guess what I'm saying here right now is I understand why Minnesota Wild fans would be unhappy with this. I think if the roles were reversed, I think Winnipeg Jets fans would be unhappy with this, and I think they'd have a right to be unhappy with this. But at the same time, I think this is a gray area in the game that Logan Stanley did what he did. But do I think that Logan Stanley got a little bit off kilter and was on top of his back and that was it? No, I don't. I think he had a chance to sink into this deeper, and he chose to do it, and that's why we're talking about what we're talking about right now.
One quick retort, Sean. We both know the Wild have one of the toughest teams in the NHL, and they would never, ever stand for their best player being on the receiving end of a dirty play and not go after Logan Stanley if they thought it was a dirty play.
Oh, I entirely disagree. I had thought throughout that game that they were going to go for retribution, but I thought, what have we talked about in the past?
Oh, it's discipline for sure.
That we just saw and what we saw from Toronto. The Winnipeg Jets, this is another one of those moments where the Jets are playing a 3D game, and if the Minnesota Wild are not as disciplined as Toronto was those years ago when Pierre-Luc Dubois mugged Austin Matthews in that situation, or just a couple games ago where Saku Menelainen goes after McDavid, I think in this situation, most definitely the Wild would be going after retribution if there weren't 2 points at stake and if they didn't know that the Jets are one play away from getting back into this game. The common denominator in all these situations, Ken, is it's a guy from the Winnipeg Jets going after the best player on the other team. I don't think for a second that this is not the Jets saying we got a chance to get a lick in on a guy. Let's get a lick on a guy. That's how hockey should be. I just don't know why we would deny that it's happening.
Sorry, my other bone of contention with the theory, Sean, you don't have to take a dumb penalty. Not one player went up to Logan Stanley at a face-off or in between whistles. Like, if Ryan Reeves had an issue with it, he would have gotten his ear. He would have gotten his ear.
Nobody knew until it was going back down the other way. The way it was called on the broadcast, Ken, is everyone was like, oh, he's getting up a little, so okay, he's going to the bench, he's fine. Okay, hold on a sec, he's not fine. This didn't happen out in real time. I mean,
but there's iPads on the bench, man. There's iPads on the bench. They could have looked at it during the break or anything.
And then they would have had to go out on the ice afterwards and go for retribution.
But you could have, you don't always have, sometimes the fear of retribution is more impactful than the retribution itself. Not one person went in Logan Stanley's direction.
I just don't. I think that they had a choice. They had to focus on the game and hold on to a game that they were desperately hanging on to, and they chose to do that. I will say this.
I applaud them if that's the case. I mean, they have one more meeting.
I do believe Dean Evison has a look at this, and I don't think Kaprizov is out long term. I think that that's why you're getting the response from him that you're getting. I think he's saying this because he doesn't want to make something out of something that probably isn't going to turn into something. That's my take on this right now. I think if we're going to find out going forward that Kaprizov is going to be okay, and I think that has a lot to do with the response that we saw from Dean Evison here tonight.
Well, that's great news.
Split. I agree. I think it's a clean hit. I don't think people are understanding what I'm saying. I don't have any problem with this. But I understand why the other team has a problem with it. I like this kind of hockey. This is the way I think hockey should be played. But I'm telling you right now, if this was the reverse situation, I think our chat room would be full of people who would be upset with a number 7 defenseman going in and taking something out of one of the top players, leaning into a guy like that. Again, Jeff Bose, I agree. It's a clean hit. I'm just saying why we are hiding from the fact that Logan Stanley may have got an edge on the guy here and may have leaned into that edge. I don't understand why people are hiding from it.
I just think that Logan is fighting for his life to be in the lineup. I don't think that he could have processed it that quickly. But again, we just don't agree on this, and that's okay. Folks, Robert Starr, Dylan.
Doug, keep up. I did not say I thought it should be a penalty. I specifically said I didn't think it should be a penalty. Keep up here, bud.
Robert Starr, Dylan challenged Dumba earlier in the game. So this is a great example, Sean. You're using if the shoe is on the other foot. So if people thought I was just mad the other day about, you throw a clean hit, you shouldn't have to fight. This is a great example. Matt Dumba steps up on Kyle Connor, delivers a clean, hard, open ice hit. He is under no obligation to drop the gloves when Brendan Dillon comes at him, or Mark Scheifele even went towards him. So I'm okay with that hit also. It was a clean hit. I'm also okay with Brendan Dillon saying, yes, I'm also okay with Brendan Dillon wanting to step up with his teammate. But if the Jets are really mad about it, you take the number of the license plate, which in this case was 24, and you find a way to try to hit him during the game, which they didn't really do that. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, but that's something that's hockey. So that's why you didn't have Rick Bowness up at the podium saying, I can't believe Dumba didn't fight after that hit. I mean, it's good. That's hockey. It's two rivals that don't like each other. So there should be physical play. I love that happened. I wish there were more hits in this game. But I honestly think that the game was so physical against Calgary that I don't think the Wild could play as physically as we've seen them play in this season series so far. So anyways, let's go on to the power play because it's one of the strangest issues in this game, Sean.
Before you do that, let's give our main man, Sweet Lou, a shout out, please.
Yeah, for the folks that have some realty needs that need to be met, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, whether you're curious what that house down the road is worth, or if you're looking to move to another part of the city, contact our main guy, Lou Furlan, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca, and his website with all his listings is www.loufurlan.ca. Lou Furlan, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community. We went for a little visit with Sweet Lou yesterday, Sean. He's on the mend, feeling good, and ready to roll. He was at the game the other night and is enjoying things, but, like a lot of Jets fans, he's got a lot of questions about how these last few games are going to unfold.
It was good to spend some time with Sweet Lou. Everyone should know he's in great health, which is absolutely good news. And we let him in on the Chuck Norris style mythology that has been building within our chat room about him. He gets a huge kick out of it. So keep it coming. We love it. Lou loves it. Keep it coming, everybody. Okay, you want to get to the power play? Let's get to it.
Yeah, I mean, this is just another evening where the Jets' power play completely let them down. And I'm absolutely at a loss, Sean. I mean, unless it was for a smokescreen, and I can't imagine that it was. Sean, we weren't at the practice because we were doing some other things and getting ready for this road trip that's coming up. But the Jets completely changed their format of the power play, asking Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor to go on their strong sides in order to try to create a different look and get some more shots. But when the game started, they went back to the normal tendencies where they were on their strong sides or off sides for one-timers. So to me, I'm just absolutely baffled. I mean, Rick Bowness talked about it again this morning about what they were trying to accomplish, and unless they went into overthinking, I can't. Do you have any idea what happened? I mean, I'm baffled by this. Unless they just, I can't imagine you go through a practice and your video and said, you know what, let's just go back to what we've been doing. I mean, that to me doesn't make any sense either. But right now, this is very simple. The Jets are not getting enough puck movement, and the other thing, they're not creating enough options for themselves. Again, I was talking with Trevor Kidd during the game. He was saying the guys on the flanks, not only do you have to be a one-timer option, but when you get the puck to the top, you need to be crashing the net for rebounds or screens or trying to create a little bit more chaos around the net. And that might lead to a few more retrievals instead of being a little bit more flat-footed, which was what the Jets are right now. Sean, you were in there. I asked Kyle Connor about the power play, and he seemed at a loss for words. His direct quote was about the power play. What's it going to take to get the power play going? I asked him. we'll see. I'm not sure. I mean, this guy is a pure sniper who's been on the power play his entire life. So either Kyle is scratching his head like the rest of us, or he had something that this was one of those things, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all kind of moments. So I'm very confused by this. Nikolai Ehlers is a guy that is great on zone entries. We understand that him and Mark Scheifele want to be playing in the same spot on that left wing side. But they're, especially, Sean, with Dubois out of the lineup, there has to be a way for them to coexist on the power play, even if it means Ehlers being the down low person. Don't you think? I mean, you got to find a spot for this guy on the top unit. Especially right now when the top unit's going 130, 140, Ehlers gets 15 seconds. I'm completely baffled by this.
So it's two mysteries wrapped up into one there that you're talking about. The first one, I mean, with the Ehlers thing, I've said this before. I went on the take. It's funny. I love it when people attack you on the media thinking something when someone was handling me on not handling me. Someone was reaching out to me on Twitter a day after I went on my conversation where I talked about the idea that I don't get what it is in Winnipeg about how the opportunities for Nick Ehlers just don't seem to be coming, and where I had said, at this stage, if you're not going to use Nick Ehlers any more than they're using him, I think you got to get to the stage where you need to say, then maybe find a way to get this guy and move him to a team that believes in what he does, because all I can see here is it seems like we're not seeing that. I don't know. I think the one thing is the best opportunity they had on the power play tonight was passing the puck over to Nick Ehlers, who came off the board, skated down to the dot, and ripped the shot. Jamal Mayers absolutely lit up when that happened. He's like, this is what they've been doing. This is a great opportunity. They should be doing this time and time again. Now, I've said this in the past, and I said it a lot last year, that the secondary power play, if it came out as much as the first power play, was built around the idea of getting that opportunity for Nick Ehlers. So I didn't mind it, because you remember the days when the Jets' two power plays were both very good and they kind of competed.
Yes.
The second one would get on and it would do very well. Well, we're back to the idea that I guess I shouldn't say that. I saw tonight, it looked like the Jets' first power play was getting a minute in and then just dejectedly skating back to the bench. But I don't know. I think in order to do that, what you would need to do is you would need to have Nick Ehlers as being the bumper guy. You'd need to move Mark Scheifele into the middle. You'd need to have Kyle Connor on the other side. And then you'd need to move either Pierre-Luc Dubois or Nino Niederreiter down by the bottom of the net to distribute and play that role down by the net side with Josh Morrissey on the top. That's the only way it would work. I don't think Mark Scheifele wants to go into the middle. I think that's what we're seeing. If you're looking for an answer, I think we're seeing a guy who wants to be on the sideboards and he wants to distribute from there. I don't know why. Another mystery that comes out of this, Ken, that is kind of blowing me away is we were taking a look and there was a stretch of 15 goals that were scored over the last little while in which the Jets defensemen were either scoring the goals or were shooting shots from the point that were being redirected in front of the net. It's where the Jets offense woke up and where they were having success offensively. And I'd said in a conversation with Rick Bowness before the game, the evidence is there. Aren't you showing these guys tape and saying, this is where we're having success? This is when our offense explodes. This is what we need to do. And it's also what we need to do on the power play. And his response was, yes, we're showing it to them. Why they're not doing it on the power play, we don't get it. We don't understand why we're giving them all the green light to shoot. We're showing them that it works. We're showing them video that it works. They're seeing their names show up in the score sheet when they do it. Why they're not doing it on the power play. This is a mystery as good as any mystery, but I can tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, the Jets coaches, this is back to the old idea of, remember when both Paul Maurice and after that Adam Lowry's dad, they were saying, we're trying to get these players to go to the front of the net, and they just weren't having success doing it. We're back at a stage where with that power play, they are trying to get the Jets to shoot from the point, from the side, get the puck to the front of the net. And it's not happening. This is a scenario where the coaches are asking for something and the players just aren't delivering. Why? I can't tell you that. And they can't tell you that. Ken can't tell you that. No one knows why this isn't happening. No one knows why the Jets power play is just not seeming to filter the pucks to the front of the net. It is a mystery. The Jets coaches are trying. They're begging them to do it. It's not happening. And it's a problem. I mean, they need a dirty, greasy, ugly goal. I thought other than Ehlers' shot, the best opportunity they had was the slap pass to the net front that Kyle Connor got. Now, because that redirected and landed on a player's stick and got cleared down, I don't know if that is negative reinforcement. At that point, they're like, well, we're not going to do that anymore because that ended up down at the other end of the ice. I don't know. The Minnesota Wild did a good job when they did get the puck down of making it hard for the Jets to set up again. And maybe they got a little gun shy in taking shots at the net because it was so hard to get back into the zone. I just think at this stage, it's got to be a bomb the puck on the net, create some havoc in front, jam that puck in. I don't care if you don't score on it at this stage, but go down swinging. Go down swinging. If you're going to get into a fight, throw a punch. And the punches thrown are getting the puck to the front of the net. It's not happening, and it's absolutely crazy at this stage.
Just a quick one on Ehlers, and I need to apologize here. You were right. Today the power play distribution was much better. Ehlers 254 on the power play. Blake Wheeler on the top unit had 259. So it was much more of a 50-50 split today. And for all the other people that have been getting on Rick Bowness, including us, for needing to get Ehlers more ice time, 20 shifts for 18:02 for Ehlers today, had an assist, 2 shots on goal, 5 shot attempts. So some folks trying to say that Ehlers, the Jets' record was so much better without Ehlers. The Jets need Ehlers if they want to go anywhere, whether that be in the playoffs or anywhere past the first round of the playoffs. So this is not a Nikolai Ehlers problem. This is a Jets problem. Nikolai Ehlers is doing his part. He's battling through, and some people saying he should be fresh. He's coming back from one of the toughest injuries you have to come back from, with a player who is reliant on his legs to make things happen. So Nikolai Ehlers will continue to get better. I expect that. He expects that. So does Rick Bowness. So don't be pointing a finger at number 27 and thinking that he's the problem. That's not the problem here. Anyways, that's just needed to get that off my chest here quickly. And there, quick thing about Gustafsson. I could not agree more. The Jets were frustrated with they were getting lots of chances. They wanted to roll. David Gustafsson played 5 minutes, and I think he set up like 2 or 3 scoring chances. So this is very interesting, Sean, and I want to get your thoughts quickly before we wrap. I mean, what happened to the fourth line setting the table, and what happened to the fourth line getting 8 to 11 minutes and looking the same with them leading the charge? Now they're not even getting on the ice.
They're falling behind too much in games. That's the issue. Is they're always playing from behind in these situations, so they need the scorers to get out there and score. There's a couple things I wanted to bring up here. ZTM is saying at least the Jets aren't getting out-coached. I don't know if this is tongue-in-cheek. Rick Bowness has moved guys in and out of the lineup for 3 straight games and brought in a guy who went and scored a goal in that game. 2 of these games are low-grinding games. There are 3-2 games where a goal makes all the difference in the world. Never mind the fact that in the last 2 games, the Jets have been pouring shots and they just haven't been finishing. This is not a coaching issue. I know people want to be mad and they want to point fingers and this kind of stuff. I don't know how people can think that this is a coaching issue from what you saw here tonight. I mean, when we talk about the power play, I mean, if you can't get your players to do something, I don't know what to say. I mean, at one point, if one coach can't get them to do it, but then a second can't, and then a third can't, I don't think that's a coaching issue. I think there's something to do with the players and not listening at that point. There's got to be something to do with that. Second thing here is T. Will says, does the fact that Nino and
Nemesnikov
are the best players on the team since the deadline, does that not just absolutely scream that we need to be more active at the deadline? This team is dying for new blood. That's one way of looking at this. I think the other way of looking at this, and I wanted to talk about it quickly before we go, Ken, is if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, who went out and didn't spend a boatload to go out and get 2 players that have immediately put their thumbprints all over this team, I mean, I don't know. How much did you need? Did you need 2 full lines to bring in to take over for what's not happening here? Like Mark Scheifele, everyone else on this team, Nick Ehlers, Pierre-Luc Dubois when he's in the lineup, Kyle Connor, are these not people capable of doing something here? If you're going out and you're getting 2 players that are almost point per game players with the Winnipeg Jets since you picked them up, if you go get 2 of those, should that not be enough to at least spark you in the situation you're in? Like, I honestly think that coming out of this trade deadline, I don't think this makes Chevy look bad. I think it makes Chevy look good. Chevy went out and found 2 guys that are fitting in right away. If you take a look on the other side of the ice, on all the new players that were brought in by the Minnesota Wild, one of them was going tonight and doing well, but their coach told me before the game about the difficulty of bringing these guys into the lineup and not trying to lose your identity, whereas Kevin Cheveldayoff went and found 2 guys who perfectly fit in with the Jets' identity and are doing exactly what they were brought in to do. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff's pickups here in Nino Niederreiter and Vladislav Nemestikov are showing that he had a very good pulse on what this team needed and what they needed to add. It's the players that are here that are not getting the job done in this situation. So I don't know. Ken, a final thought on Chevy's pickups and your take on what he owed this team compared to what he's provided this team right now.
Yeah, the forward help has been beneficial, which is what we expected. I mean, maybe Nemestikov is scoring a bit more than some people thought, but I reminded plenty of people on the weekend, Nemestikov is a year removed from a 16-goal season. So, no, he wasn't producing at that rate with the Tampa Bay Lightning this year. But this is a guy that's been a double-digit scorer quite regularly. Nino Niederreiter is a consistent 20-goal scorer, and he hit that mark today. But what the Jets didn't address, Sean, is the bigger issue. Defense. They needed a defenseman to help in the same regard as those 2 guys have helped the forward group. And I understand that that sounds like a lot. And it was a lot. And the problem is that the Jets have a lot of bodies, but the group is not as cohesive as it needs to be. There's something wrong with the mix. There's nothing wrong with the individual players for the most part. But this mix is not working for this group for the most part, even though today they didn't give up 10 scoring chances in the hockey game. I think that they needed to add somebody. And folks, I'm not using the old mic. This is the new mic. I don't know what's going on here. I apologize, but we're on the new mic, and for some reason maybe it's not coming through the same way, or there's background noise with the vacuum cleaners. We apologize for that.
It does seem to be coming through your mic. I don't know why. Yeah, there you go. It kind of disappears. What it is, ladies and gentlemen, it's a leaf blower. They go clean up the building. They blow all the garbage from the aisles into one spot. So he's putting
same settings as always.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. It does seem a little different tonight. Anyway, yeah, waiter says you sound normal to him, so it is what it is. Anyway, we'll have to be digging into this over the next little while. Tishu has asked this twice. We'll get back to it. Ken, you have something you want to say before we shut this down?
No, I mean, we've got lots of time still to discuss a lot of the bigger picture issues. It's just like the reason why this is part of the problem for the Jets. They still don't know if Ville Heinola can be an NHL defenseman, right? I mean, in a year where now all of a sudden they're scratching and clawing to be in the playoffs, they're still going to have to figure out next year, or maybe move him in the off season, or else, other decisions will have to be made. I mean, they're going to have to make room for Declan Chisholm. They're not going to let him walk on waivers after being an AHL All-Star. So they've got a lot of choices to make on the back end. And I understand if you didn't want to make all of those decisions right now, but even, listen to what Rick Bowness said. I mean, Dylan Sandberg didn't deserve to come out of the lineup, but he did. So I'm very curious to see how this goes down the stretch run here. The Jets have a lot of choices, and they need to determine what they're going to be. This is what is going to define their season. They have 17 games left. Their next 4 games are absolutely massive for them. Florida, Tampa, Carolina, Boston. So if you think it's tight today, imagine what it's going to be like in 1 week from now. So that's what I say. It's a great opportunity for the Jets. Can they find a way to put the puck in the net when they play a structured game like today? Oh, their defense was much more improved in the game. Sorry, I think you probably mean at the trade deadline, so my apologies for that.
Yeah. Okay, it's time for me to clear that screen for sure. And it's also time for me to throw a spotlight on the comments and choose a standout for the Home Field Dig Deeper Award. I set this one up early, and this is someone who's been with us for a long time. And it's a pretty simple comment, but Enor Tap, who I think started following us out of Montreal when we did our Montreal shows and has been around for a while.
Playoffs.
I know Enor Tap has been in trying to get the Lamplighter, and I don't know if there's something they could swing, but when you earn it, you earn it. And Enor Tap, pointing out that Niederreiter has been the Jets' best player since he has arrived, is absolutely bang on. Great job by Enor Tap. Thank you, Enor Tap, for your winning comment. And just like Enor Tap, Home Field is always going to dig deeper to find the best marketing solution for your company. Find out how at myhomefield.ca. Enor Tap, direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name and an email. I can get a hold of you, and we'll try and figure out some way to get you this shovel if that's how things play out here. Otherwise, we'll figure out a way that you can gift it to someone else in the audience. Thank you so much, Ken. Great job here. Chat room, once again, you were all over it, doing a great job. And I'll end this by saying the same thing I always say. If you appreciate the conversations happening in these spaces, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep these conversations going in these spaces. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, TransCanada Brewing Company, the Johnston Group, Lou Ferlin, and Home Field. Thank you to them for being along for the ride. It means a lot for us. Ken, if you can, throw up that link one more time, people. Got to fill that room. So,
okay, one other quick one. Happy second anniversary to our friends Hustler and Remo, Winnipeg Sports Talk. Second anniversary today. And there's the link right there. And we'd love to have you. Remember, folks, no Ken Weeb on site for the March 25th birthday edition. So it's a pre-birthday celebration at TransCanada Brewing Company. Should be a lot of fun. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah. Come on down, and like I'd said, if you need to do what we did last time and just get a hold of me, directly get a hold of me, I'll find a way to hook you up with some tickets. So let's make a push here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's fill that room because we want to hang out with you. The food's great. Like I said, you come in, the ticket gets you all the pizza that you want to eat, lots of appies, and, of course, your first beer for free. And yes, I'm going to be on Winnipeg Sports Talk tomorrow. And hopefully I can celebrate. Maybe I'll get on with a little bit of champagne or a beer in my hand to celebrate their second anniversary. You never know. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to be on Sports Talk tomorrow, and then I will be on a plane down for the Hockey Night in Canada, the Jets' next game against the Florida Panthers on Friday. I will be staying for the GM meetings after that, so I'll be gone for a while. So if we are pushing for tickets, make sure you get a hold of me early so that I can try and get all that squared away before I get busy down in Florida. Thank you so much, everybody. We will chat with you again after the Hockey Night in Canada, Winnipeg Jets versus Florida Panthers. Talk to you then. Oh.
The Kenny and Renny Show is brought to you by Home Field, Cambrian Credit Union, Lou Ferlin, TransCanada Brewing, Vittorio Rossi, and Johnston Group.